Well, here we are. Astro's been asking for me to do a little video about this thing, so I'm rebuilding the recirculating tank table today. And what we have here is the framework. You can see the pump down here, which is a 1/2 horsepower booster pump, kind of low pressure, high volume. It's going to move a good bit of water at just low pressure so it won't overwork the Miller table. I'm up to my discharge valve for my hoses and stuff there that will power my Miller table, and a couple other things I use on this for cleanup work. Come around here, equipped it with a pressure gauge so I can see what everything's doing, and then you can see the pumping that will come around to the lower tank, which will have another tank above it a little bit later. I'll do a video of that all going together. You can see we had a bit of a wheel problem with the weight, so I've installed some new caster wheels today. The original wheels that came on this clothes rack had a bit of a problem handling about 60 gallons of water weight plus the pump, which weighs about 45 pounds. So they kind of gave up. So if you use one of these clothes racks to do any type of a rolling tank table like I've done, be sure to upgrade the wheels. I upgraded to 3-inch that have the same threaded screw that will thread into the bottom of this. It's the largest ones I can get with this screw pattern on it. Again, they're 3-inch and are rated at about 110 pounds each. Okay, we're back now. We have the lower tub installed. This is just a heavy-duty 30-gallon tote picked up at Home Depot. We went ahead, put a bulkhead fitting in it, put our foot valve in there, just a little 1-inch check valve, so we can maintain positive prime on the pump. Coming around the outside for service so we can remove it. You can see we used a union valve here, came around and also put another union valve in the back, so pump removal is fairly easy. Alright, we'll go around and get the upper tank and we'll be back with that. Okay, we have the upper tank in place. You can see on this end we have our overflow from the upper tank that goes down to the lower tank. Again, we routed this through a bulkhead fitting from inside. We determined we wanted the maximum water level just about 2/3 of the capacity of the upper tank. Also, one thing we discovered, leave an air vent up, or you can lock up and the water can't get down fast enough if you did not leave an air vent out the top of the overflow. Coming back around, you'll see these washing machine hoses, which I like to use because they're high pressure and I don't have any problems with them. They're about the right length. I use those to attach to my different apparatus, such as my Miller table, which is right over here, that I run for cleanup purposes, and I also have a couple homemade poop tubes that I use, and I can actually, with both hoses, I can run them both simultaneously with no problems. So next we'll get some water in this thing, get everything hooked up, and put some power to it and show it to you running the Miller table. Okay, here we go. We've got some water in the upper and lower tanks. We have the upper tank filled right to overflow level, as you can see there. The lower tank we have filled to about 2/3 to keep the intake down so it won't draw any air unexpectedly. Also, in setting things up, I found these fiberglass trash cans over at Salvation Army for $1 each. And they fit beautifully to capture our runoff material. They sit just below the maximum water level of the tank, so anything that goes in here will flow back into the tank as far as water. Our runoff debris and stuff from our Miller table and cleanup tables will drop into the trash can, which are easily removable as they start to get full, and I have 2 more in the garage to easily replace them with. We'll be back here in just a second. Well, let's see. I've got it close. Here's my Miller table I built. What I did was to set my spray bar up to where it runs into this bread pan, and then down a 42-inch long slate stone that's about a 1/4 inch thick and approximately 7 inches wide. Picked all that up at a yard sale for $5. So I'll give you just a quick idea how this thing sits on here. I can do this with one hand. This thing's pretty heavy. Oops. That sets the Miller table in place. Keeps us at a pretty good angle with just that little bit of drop. And we'll take our pressure hose, which attaches right here. Again, this is a little difficult to do one-handed. The reason I dumped the spray bar into that little bread pan, it actually creates a waterfall effect. It lets the water run into the pan, which I'm probably going to change it and put this hose fitting directly on the pan a little bit later. But it greatly minimizes any bubbles in the system. It actually lets the pan fill up and then the water gently run down the table. Works a lot better than just letting the water spray directly on the table. So we'll get some power out here and I'll fire this thing up and we'll run some water down the table. Well, as promised, here we are running. Got the Miller table up there. See, I've got my water coming in. Works real well with using that little tray just to minimize bubbles instead of having it dumped directly onto the surface of the table. Coming down nice and smooth. Leftover material will run into the trash can. The water will then run over from the trash can into the tote. Then we'll exit through the overflow. Coming out underneath. Dropping down. Back into the lower tank. Back to the pickup. Around to the pump. And as you can see right now, we're running at about 28 pounds pressure. And probably about 6 gallons a minute. And I can get a whole lot more out of this little pump. This is a 1/2 horsepower stay-right booster pump that I had from a job. We just put a new seal and gasket in. We had to put a bigger pump in for the application that this was used in. So we found a good home for it on this little rig right here. And that is my homemade recirculating tank system. Well, here we are. Got the Miller table back inside the garage. Everything's set up and running. I'm actually processing some of the cons and stuff that had came out of the catch can, and a few places where things had flooded over into the tanks. Did find some gold in there. And here's, I don't know if we can see it really well. There's a shadow here. See a little bit down there is what we're getting. One of the biggest problems we have with our concentrates here in the Carolinas, you can see that kind of gray dark sand. Well, that's monzonite. And on a slate stone like what I have here, it's kind of difficult to separate. It tends to hold to the stone just as the gold does. It takes a little while to run out. And you can see there I've recovered about 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 nice little pieces right there, starting to separate out. I'll get with a snuffer bottle here in a little bit, and right in, it's kind of hard to focus there, but right in that area we got some more that's going to come through. And just for Probably this whole setup, including my little homemade miller table and pumps that I've had from jobs and bits and pieces of stuff, I've probably got less than, about $125 in this whole outfit. And most of that's just in the brass valves and the new wheels I put on here. The tubs were on sale. They were about $14 each. So, and everything else was just off the scrap pile. $5 for the slate top from a yard sale I found. Hoses, $3, Salvation Army. PVC pipe just out of the junk pile in the back. I do a lot of irrigation and repair for a living, and a lot of pump work for irrigation systems. So that's my little rig. It's working out real well for a low dollar outfit. Got be building a new miller table with a self-healing cover on it here before spring. It's going to be shorter, a little wider, and process a lot more material and should get rid of this monzonite a little better.